So everything that you need to know about perimenopause nutrition, actually, it seems like a big topic, but it's not. And I call it perimenopause nutrition, but really it's perimenopause, menopause, anything, in that, that range of years where we are changing because of the hormones, right? Because of the sex hormones, to be specific. So for some of us, it's 35. For some of us, it's 47. I think the average, the last report that I saw, the average age for perimenopause onset is 42, but that changes. And I talk to women all the time that are like 36 or so, and they have this. So let's get started. For those of you that do not know me, because most of you do, but for those of you that do not know me, I am a registered dietitian and I am a yoga instructor. I am a grandma, and I have been doing nutrition and yoga education and counseling for 2 decades, so quite a while, and it's actually a second career for me. So I've been around the block a couple times, but I actually I practice what I preach, and mindful eating is what I usually work in. So I don't exactly believe in diets and diet culture, and I do know that yoga is the answer to everything. So a lot of that infuses in with what I teach. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm also a total goofball and highly excitable, and things tend to go, I'm very easily distracted as well, as I keep looking down because the dog is circling my feet right now. So let's go ahead and get started. What do you need to know? So it can really be broken down into these basic things, okay? Your nutrition does not need to be complicated. And if you are following a complicated nutrition regimen, you're doing too much work. It shouldn't be that complicated. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy, but it shouldn't be complicated. And I'm going to show you how as we get going through here. Keep in mind, I'm not holding anything back as I'm walking you guys through all this. I'm literally telling you, if you called me up today and said, hey, Tammy, I want to come into one of your programs, this is where we would start. This is like the first, few weeks of what we would do. So I'm not, holding anything back here. I'm just literally letting you know everything that I know that's going to help you. So you do not need to complicate this. Please don't complicate it. And if it is feeling like that's the case, then I implore you to reach out and we can talk about that, because it should be simple. Also, restricting foods. Now, unless you have some kind of medical need, and by medical need, I mean that you have a medically confirmed allergy to gluten, or you have IBS that has, that has been proven, or even thyroid, you don't need to worry about that. But, unless there's an allergy, like a nut allergy or something like that, you can eat everything. You can eat whatever you want. Now, that's not to say that you can't choose, right? Because we all have that choice. And I work with a lot of people who, my own sister, as a matter of fact, she's vegan. She's a diet tech and a vet tech, and she wants to eat vegan because everything is cute and fuzzy, and that's okay. So whatever it is that your choice is, it's perfect. We can work with that, but please don't restrict foods based on something that you have seen or heard, unless you really know that that's what you need. And then number 3, the biggest thing that you should know is that it's not about knowing what to do or when to do it. It's about your mindset. It's about getting behind that, putting yourself first, getting behind that, nourishing your mind, body, and spirit. It's about making sure and really living that mindset that you want to be in a healthier place. All right, so go ahead and take notes, grab a pen and some paper, or if you're taking notes on your keyboard, then go ahead and do that. So we're gonna get started. Again, we're gonna get started 8 minutes in. So I'm going to teach you the most effective eating pattern, right? So this is what my programs are all based on. This is what the science is all based on. And it's a really simple pattern. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about meal planning, because I could talk all month on that, but I'm going to just talk to you a tiny bit about that. I'm going to give you my top 3 tips for managing perimenopause symptoms. I'm going to go over how yoga fits in, because everything I do has a little bit of yoga, and because I can't help it, you are going to see my dogs a little bit. So that's how we roll. Okay, so let's start off with what do you eat? All right. I'm giving this to you right here, right at the beginning of this video. So if you're watching this replay, or if you're here after you get this, you want to sign off, I won't, it won't hurt my feelings too much, but go ahead and do that. But so the PFF eating plan. So this is PFF literally just stands for protein, fat, and fiber. If you keep these three things in mind, protein, fat, and fiber, you are modeling all of your meals and your snacks around that, you will be balancing your hormones. All right. And that's number 2, hormone balance. Now, whether you are menopause, postmenopause, and remember, in this grand scheme of things, perimenopause are all of those years leading up to that one day where it is 365 days from your last period, which that day is menopause. And then after that, everything after that one day that is 365 days from your last period, that is postmenopause. So menopause, even though we lump everything into that, it's only one day. So whether you are perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause, hormone balance is the key. And it could be sex hormones, right? Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, or it's also insulin, your metabolic hormones, insulin, thyroid, all of the things that regulate all that, and it's stress hormones. So your cortisol and adrenaline and all of those too as well. So hormone balance is really the key. And then, so if you've been to the doctor, okay, so true story, I went to the doctor once and he told me I was overweight, never looked at my chart, told me I should talk to a dietitian. I immediately left, like seriously. But in that lecture, somewhere in there, he told me that I should, maybe consider eating less and moving more. Frick, dude, I'm a dietitian and I teach a gazillion classes, right? So that memory just burns in my brain. And I don't think any woman should ever have to go through that experience ever. But it's my goal to try and change that conversation. So if you've heard eat less, move more, I'm telling you that is 100% wrong. That is not going to help you. That's not going to get you where you want to be or where you need to be. Eating less is only going to eventually slow down your metabolism to the point where you're left with 3 lettuce leaves and a carrot stick. Okay. You don't want to get to that point. I don't know about you guys, but I am at a point where I've still got hopefully 30 good years left in my life. If I start restricting what I'm eating now, what am I going to eat in 30 years? Right. I don't want to do that. You actually need to fuel your cells in order for them to want to relinquish the calories, which is stored as fat. So if you want to lose weight, you actually have to eat more. You have to eat enough. And the trick there for those of us that are losing estrogen or have already lost that estrogen production, the trick is to boost your metabolism in other ways. And that's where we always talk about strength and resistance training or yoga. All right. So let's take a little look at that PFF eating pattern. So protein, fat, and fiber. And it does not matter if it is animal protein or plant protein, but keep in mind that animal protein, the fat that goes along with animal protein is going to be saturated fat, and that's your quote unquote bad fat. So research has finally caught up with fat, and saturated fat isn't as bad as it used to be even 18 months ago. But it still does lead to, in those people that are prone to inflammation, it leads to more risk of heart disease, so that kind of stuff, building up plaques, atherosclerosis, I can't say that word, atherosclerosis and such. So animal proteins are going to have more of the quote unquote bad fat profile than plant-based proteins. And nothing is a vacuum. So you're going to get a little bit of both, right? You're going to get protein, you're going to get fat in most foods. You're probably going to get some carbs in most foods. So everything's going to have kind of a combination of things. But that animal or protein or plant protein, your healthy fats, so that's like your nuts, your seeds, your whole grains, your quinoas, things like that. Those are all beneficial, healthy fats. And then fiber. Okay, so I probably say this a gazillion times a week. My husband is going to have it carved into my tombstone. Fiber is the weight loss miracle. Okay. It is literally the answer to everything. You will know when you hit your personal correct amount of fiber. You will know because you will feel amazing. You will feel light. You will feel energized. You will lose weight or maintain a weight that's right for your body. Because sometimes we have these goals that aren't realistic, but you will absolutely get to the right place if you are hitting your correct amount of fiber. All right, so protein, healthy fat, and fiber. This is literally everything you need to know. It's going to balance your hormones. It's going to create that satisfaction with your food. So everything that you do eat, if you've ever eaten like a meal, like, I don't know why I always pick on the cabbage soup diet, but if you've ever gone on the cabbage soup diet, 3 days into the, or not even 3 meals into this thing, you're like, I am missing something. I need something. And that drives you to the cabinet. And then you're looking for filling that hole. Or if you eat like my teenage daughter and everything is pasta, right? She doesn't eat anything but pasta. Then she's always looking for something else, right? Because she's not getting the protein and the fiber. All right. So if you want to feel that satisfaction with less, so we all want to eat less food, right? We don't want to, we want to eat more food, but trimming back to that, eating less so that we can maintain weight and feel good and, cut grocery costs, then you want to make sure that you have that nice balanced. Okay. And then if you're doing this, if you're doing the protein, the fat, and the fiber, odds are very good, except in a couple extreme circumstances, odds are very good that you will be getting a very well-rounded and variety of foods. You'll be getting enough nutrients that you don't necessarily, now everybody's different, but you don't necessarily need to add in too much in the way of supplementation, or maybe not even anything in the way of supplementation. So if we're talking about fiber, and the trick is, so 25 to 30 grams is going to be your recommendation. All right. If you're not sure, I recommend that you start there. You keep track for a couple of days on a sticky note or whatever. And just every time you eat something, just note how many grams of fiber. Most of us come in between 10 and 12 when we first get started, if we're lucky. If it's something, if you're vegetarian, you might come in a little bit higher. But then that's something that you don't want to automatically jump right up, right? You don't want to go from 10 grams to 30 grams in a day, because that's going to hurt and it's dangerous. You don't want to do that. You get GI blockages and not so fun things there. So you want to make sure that you know where you're at, and then build up to that 25 to 30 grams slowly over the course of weeks even. You might notice that you have some gas and some bloating a little bit, and that's normal, and that goes away as the body gets used to it. Or we can talk about probiotics too, if that's something that you need. So let's talk about why fiber. So why do we need this fiber? And this is why it's the miracle. This is why it's the answer to everything. And I could literally stop this class right after this slide, because this is everything that you need to know. The first job of fiber, it does a daily detox. So if you've ever, if you've worked with me, then you know that you say the word detox and my head spins and I turn into like this raving lunatic about the evils of detoxes, right? And flushes and that kind of stuff. You do not need that. Your body does that for you. Fiber helps. Fiber is a sponge. Fiber draws away your extra blood sugar. Fiber draws away your extra cholesterol, the bad fats, your saturated fat. Fiber draws away extra estrogen. So why did I say that? Most people feel that when we're going through, quote unquote, the change, and I have to say it like that because that's like how my grandmother used to say it, the change. When we're going through this period, you think that it's a lack of estrogen that's causing all the problems. That is incorrect. More than likely, it's estrogen dominance. So what happens is, as we start to age and our fewer ovaries, less estrogen being produced every month, the body's like throwing everything at it, right? So your body is naturally kicking out as much estrogen as humanly possible. So what we think is happening is a decrease. It's actually estrogen dominance, or too much estrogen and not enough progesterone. And testosterone plays in there too. But you can actually track that. They have apps that you can get that you can track, your symptoms and figure that out, whatever. But so what does fiber have to do with that? Fiber pulls away all that extra and it gets rid of it. So every time you eat something with fiber, whatever is in that meal that you have excess of that you're not using or storing right then, it's going to be detoxed. It's going to be flushed out. So if you eat a Twinkie and it's loaded with preservatives and it's loaded with carbs and blood sugar starts going up and cholesterol and trans fats and all that, Twinkies are probably illegal now because of trans fats, but whatever. So if you eat something like that, then, but you have, say, an apple with it. I don't know why you would eat those two things together, but the fiber in the apple is going to strip away a large portion of everything that you have eaten, and it's going to get rid of it. So that doesn't mean that you can just have fiber with everything and everything will be good. It doesn't quite work that way, but you get the idea. The second job is that fiber supports our immune system. It's 2020. Everybody is concerned about the immune system, right? We need to be boosting this as much as possible. Your immune system starts in your gut, and fiber actually promotes a healthy immune system. Why do we care? If your body is working at, say, 10% less because the immune system is fighting, then you are not burning calories, you are saving calories. So every time you're sick, you're actually conserving fat. That's not fun unless you have like a fever, but like low-grade colds and things like that. It is 2020, so we want to make sure that we're boosting our immune system as much as possible. So eat more fiber. That's all I'm going to say. Eat more fiber. And then, like I already mentioned, the hormone balance. So fiber is very good for getting rid of that estrogen dominance. Estrogen goes up, progesterone goes down. Progesterone is the hormone that keeps you feeling calm and level and together, and with it, it's the thing that keeps your mind sharp. Estrogen, on the other hand, is think of it as like your crazy Uncle Sal. Sorry if anybody has an Uncle Sal, I didn't mean that, but just like, you know what I mean? Like your crazy uncle, all over the place, schizophrenic, whatever. So estrogen, if there's too much estrogen, the progesterone is very low. They work as a teeter-totter. So you want to get rid of estrogen dominance so that the progesterone levels can come up so that you can feel more in line. So those mood swings that all of a sudden started happening, that return to depression that you might not have experienced since you were a teenager. Yeah, that's what's happening right there. So fiber is going to help you with that. That's why I'm always talking about fiber, like all the time. So much so that, like I said, it's going to be my legacy. Your fiber is going to support your hormone balance, your satisfaction, and your balanced nutrition. And so what does that look like? So that looks like perhaps a green salad with quinoa. Quinoa is going to be a superfood. It's got all of that. It's got the protein, the healthy fat, and the fiber loaded with veggies, right? It might look like roasted chicken with, some whole grain pasta and whatever veggies that you choose to eat. It doesn't have to be complicated. It might be a morning smoothie. You throw a couple cups of berries and some avocado, some almond milk, and some protein, we'll call it almond butter, all of that, throw that in a blender, call it a day. Spinach, it might look something like that. So it doesn't need to be complicated. In fact, it can be very, very simple. But the most important thing when you're looking at your food, even more so important than your fiber, is going to be your mindset. All right. So I can give you all of this information, and I do, and I give everybody this information for free. You guys all follow me in the group. You know that I'm putting this stuff out there. I'm telling people this all the time. It's like step one in all of my programs is the information, right? So, and you can Google this. You don't need me for that. You can Google all that and find all this. This is the important part right here, is making sure that you have the mindset, getting away from that, restricting what you're doing, not worrying about, counting carbs or counting calories or measuring or weighing or all of that, and getting into the nourishing mindset. So you're nourishing your body. Absolutely. What you choose nourishes your body. Nourishing your mind, right? So feeling that restriction that's no good. If I said, don't ever go and eat another piece of pizza, first thing you would do is fire me. Second thing you would do is stop the pizza on the way home, right? So, you're nourishing your mind with having a rich food life, right? You're eating when it serves you, you're sharing meals with friends, you're not worrying about the what and the where and the how all the time. That's a very limiting and isolating way to live, right? And your spirit, you're nourishing your spirit as well, because what we eat really is so closely tied to our emotions. And I help you guys go through all of that. I help you learn all of that and practice and find your triggers and learn how to identify this stuff for yourself. So mindset is part of that mindful eating mindset: fiber, protein, healthy fat, and fiber. That's what you need to know there. So I'm going to take a drink, and you guys are going to look at Murphy and Duke for a second. Told you we're going to meet the dog. Does anybody have, I'll take a second here. If you have a question, go ahead and type it into the box here. I'm happy to answer those. I know it takes a minute for everybody to get in there. Otherwise, look at my dogs. And I had to think about these pictures because every part of my house is a construction zone. So it's very hard to find pictures that don't show naked walls and stuff. All right, so I did talk about, oops, I got a chat here, hold on. Told you I can't. Oh, that's a good question. Woo-hoo. Okay, is it better to eat raw veggies for fiber, or is cooking good as well? So it depends. If you're cooking the snot out of something, then you're breaking down the fiber. For some people that have like low grade IBS, you actually want to do a little bit of that to help you digest it. Or if you have like, if you take like a Protonix or something like that for reflux, cooking them can help with that. But for most people, to eat them as little processed as possible. So steaming them, perfect. If you like them warm and all that. Raw, great. Things like tomatoes have a better nutrition profile if they're cooked. They're not real high fiber anyway. So that was a great question. To eat them raw is a better deal. Perfect. Or very, very lightly steamed. Not like I steam them because I can't figure out my Instapot. But okay, perfect. Let's move on. Hormones. Okay, so when we were talking hormones, and I didn't think of this. This is not me. This came off of the Michelle Obama podcast. Menopause and perimenopause is puberty in reverse. And I thought that was like the best thing I've ever heard, because it is exactly what it is. Okay. So literally everything that happens in your body is regulated by hormones. Okay. So let's say that one more time. Everything that happens in your body is regulated by hormones. So not all hormones are sex hormones, right? So your sex hormones, quote unquote, are, or not quotes, but your sex hormones are your estrogen, your progesterone, and your testosterone, right? They drive reproduction and libido and all of that. They do drive your metabolism, those hormones, right? How much muscle mass you have, the plasticity of your veins. That's why women, as they start to have estrogen fluctuations, that's why women are experiencing heart palpitations, chest pain. That's why women have heart attacks at a higher rate than men do, because the estrogen does not maintain that throughout our life. But there are also metabolic hormones, right? So these are the things that control our digestion, our metabolism, thyroid, storage of fat, insulin. Okay. So when I talk about hormone balance, the number one hormone I'm actually talking about is not a sex hormone. I'm talking about insulin, because insulin drives your hunger and satiety hormones. Insulin drives your fat storage, and it drives your metabolism. Okay. So insulin is that thing that takes blood sugar out of your bloodstream, right? And sends it, all those little carbs, right? They get turned into energy, into teeny tiny little energy pieces. And then those get pushed off into, either they get stored as fat or they get used as energy. Insulin's kind of like the first line of defense, either for or against weight management. So insulin is huge, and it also controls moods, and they're finding a little bit of a link to hot flashes. So that's also something to consider, because hot flashes they're real and they happen very unpredictably, unless you have fiber, and then they're less. But so insulin's the number one hormone that I'm talking about. Then I'm talking about usually either cortisol, right? So that's a stress hormone, which also regulates whether we are storing fat or whether we are using energy, right? So we want to use more. But cortisol also is what's responsible for that belly fat that we get as we age. And then sex hormones, those are the last thing that I usually talk about. So when we eat in that PFF eating plan, we are actually supporting our hormone balance. We are encouraging the use of blood sugar correctly for energy. We are encouraging stripping away excess as a way with the fiber. We are actually encouraging the metabolism to boost up when we eat that protein, fat, and fiber. Now, if we eat a diet, and this is like the only negative thing I'm going to say today, but if we eat a diet that is high in processed foods, or, like you have those meals, you look at those meals and they're like, everything on your plate is beige, there's no color. Those meals are actually upsetting hormone balance. Those are leading to more cortisol. Those are leading to more insulin. Those are actually keeping you from basically working at a higher level, okay? So your metabolism is going to slow down, your inflammation is going to be huge. I am not talking about inflammation today because that is a topic I could talk about until the cows come home, but it is a huge factor in your weight management, your hot flashes, your mood swings, I already said mood swings, anxiety. Anxiety is a huge thing for women right now, or in this period of your life. So, you want to make sure that when you are thinking about that mindset and you're thinking less about how many cups of fiber should I have today, you're thinking about what's going to serve me, what's going to help me feel better, what's going to keep me in balance. And that will actually help you to stay on track a little bit, especially when it's like this time of year, it's super tricky. Around the holidays, everybody's, tempted with things. And then sometimes you eat these things and you realize they don't even taste good, but we're still eating them because they're there. So, you want to take a look at that mindset, and you want to balance what's serving you physically with what's serving you emotionally. All right. So that means having a little bit of that pumpkin pie isn't going to completely derail you. Having that, whatever it might be, having a glass of wine isn't going to hurt you at all. Okay. All right. So with your mindset piece, so here we go, more mindset, give yourself space to explore, which is one of the things that I do teach, right? Space to explore using yoga, journaling, mindful eating, space to accept that changes are not bad. What you're going through isn't bad. In fact, it's probably beneficial, going to get out the other side and feel a little bit better about yourself, your confidence. But in the interim, when you're doing it, it can be kind of scary. Absolutely. And also space to take care of yourself, which is such a struggle for us women, right? To care for ourselves and make that space to do our meal planning or to journal, because we feel like we need to be taking care of everybody else first, which is so not the truth. We need to take care of ourselves first. All right, so that's it on that section. Let's talk about meal planning. Oh, you know what? Before I go any further, does anybody have any questions about hormones? Any questions that I can answer without like a 90-minute dissertation? And then while I step on the dog again. No, okay. So meal planning. Again, this is another thing that I could talk about for days, but my advice to you is to keep it simple. All right. Does not have to be complicated. You do not have to have the perfect meals. You don't have to have the perfect everything. If one day you notice that you look down and your plate does not have a vegetable on it, you are not going to food jail. You're fine. It's okay. Just have two later, or focus on something a little bit different, a little bit differently the next time. Every time you eat, you have the opportunity to make choices, right? So it's not the end of the world. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I screwed up breakfast, so it's all downhill from there. Or, you're doing really well, oh, everything, and then you screw up because you screw up because you have whatever, chocolate or whatever it might be. You haven't screwed up. You've just made a choice. And then the next time you make a choice that serves you in a different way. It's perfect. You're going to be fine, I promise. So make sure that your meal planning is simple. If it's not simple, it's going to last for about a week, and then you're going to give up. So PFF, look at each meal. All right. I want my breakfast to have a protein, a fat, and a fiber. I want my lunch to have a protein, a fat, and a fiber. And I want my dinner to have a protein, a fat, and a fiber as much as possible. If I can't, then it doesn't. It doesn't have to be the perfect protein, fat, and fiber, right? If your protein for that night and your fat happens to be fried chicken because that's what's on your menu for the night, then have the fried chicken. You still had protein. Okay. If it happens to be, I don't know, I can't think of anything protein wise. If you're, if I'm in charge of steaming your vegetables and they end up soggy, you're not going to get as much fiber, but you're going to get some. So then the next time you just make up for it. If you notice, so this is my tip for you. If you notice that at 3 o'clock, you're wandering, we're all working from home these days. If you're wandering in and out of your kitchen and you're not really hungry, but you're just kind of like, there's just something that you need, take a look at the last meal. Did you have your PFF? Odds are, if you're wandering the kitchen and you're not like actually hungry, that's because you did not check one of those boxes. All right. If you eat your meal and 30 seconds later, you're looking for more, check your boxes, right? Make sure that you had all of that stuff. So yes, absolutely. Please keep it very simple. Yes, roasted veggies are perfect. Sorry, see, I told you I'm distracted, easily distracted. Roasted veggies are perfect. Cauliflower, broccoli, asparagus, absolutely. When you roast them, be careful that you're not overdoing it with butter or something like that, because that can obviously add calories. But roasted veggies are perfect. You can even put a rub on them. That's a thing that everybody's doing now, a little bit of olive oil and rub. So that's perfect too. Okay, so the other part of meal planning is to make room for the unpredictable. So when I start working with somebody on meal planning, I always say, okay, what is the one meal that is going to be chaos for you, right? So it might be somebody has to go to soccer practice, or you've got a class, or whatever. There's, breakfast is not possible because I like to get my workout in, so breakfast is chaos. What is that one meal that's chaos? And then plan for that meal to be chaos. So maybe that's the meal that you eat out. Maybe that's the meal that you rely on a convenience food. Maybe that's the meal that you packed the night before. Maybe that's the meal that you allow your husband to take care of. Regardless of how chaotic that ends up, regardless of whether or not that's pizza or something that you wouldn't choose for yourself, allow it to happen. Okay. You do not have to take the whole burden of all of the meal planning on yourself. So look at your schedule for the week, look at all of your meals, or as much as you can, and try to plan for those times where it might be unpredictable. And then in the back of your mind, and this is where people are successful, in the back of your mind, have a backup plan. So whatever that might look like, it might be knowing what items at Panera you can feel confident about ordering, knowing, okay, in a pinch, I can stop at this place and get this food, right? So for the majority of us here today, knowing that Orange Cat has healthy soups, right? So we know that that's something that we can do if we need to. So make room for things that are unpredictable and keep it simple, and your meal plan will take care of itself, I promise you. Now, it can be as complicated as you want. So I know this is kind of small. You can kind of blow it up if you, kind of like lean right in. This is an example of the meal plans that I create for my clients. And whereas they look fairly complicated, they're really not. You know, I do a lot of taking one meal that we make for dinner and then using it for lunch later on. You know, using simple ingredients, peanut butter. I rely a lot on nuts and peanut butter and things like that, you know, and planning them throughout the week. So when you're doing your meal plan, I suggest that, you know, what you're having for dinner, can you make a little bit extra, use that for lunch or snacks throughout the week? Can you make up a couple of bento boxes for snacks and just have those handy? You know, what can you do in a hurry? And honestly, there are some prepackaged oatmeals out there now that aren't that bad if you're in a rush. You can get smoothies that are pretty easy in a rush. You know, depending on what grocery store you're shopping at, there are some convenience meals that if you're just completely spent, then you can do those. Because fatigue between your, like, I'm going to say 35 and 60, fatigue is real. It's not something that you should be doing better at. It really happens. And that's a side effect of these hormone fluctuations. So if you are too tired, honor that and make it simple. So plan for what you know. Use the PFF framework. Plan for what you know. Sometimes I type these things and I don't know what I'm talking about. Have a backup for when you can't plan. Okay, so like I said, have a backup. Follow the 80-20 rule. So if you can't do okay on a day, that's okay. That's your 20%. Then you just, you know what, the rest of the time, then you do great, right? So if you just possibly cannot get a vegetable in because you totally got ticked off when you were in the freezer section of the grocery store and left without getting your vegetables for the week, I'm not going to say that's happened to me, but it was very specific, wasn't it? Then you don't have vegetables for that night. Whatever, you get them tomorrow. And then try to find that nourishing mindset, right? What's going to nourish your mind, body, and your spirit. All right, meal planning. I'm gonna take another drink here before we bring this on in. Anybody have any questions on meal planning while we look at my darling Maggie May? Peanut butter and almond butter are equivalent. They're just, like I tell my children, I love you both the same, just differently. They just have a little bit different nutrient profile. Peanut butters tend to have a lot of added sugars to them for whatever reason they do. So just be careful of what's in there. Almond butter tends to be less so, but that's a great question. Yeah, peanut butter, almond butter, even cashew butter, any of those nut butters are really a good option. Perfect. Yeah, that was great. I use those for everything. As a matter of fact, I have a whole package of them upstairs. All right. So let's talk about managing your symptoms, okay? Not everything can be cured with lifestyle, but a lot of things can. And you will know. So you also don't need to run out and get a hormone panel done. And I say that because a lot of times people feel like I need to do that first before I can do anything else. And to tell you the truth, that's not going to give you a lot of information. Those hormone profiles only give you a snapshot of time. And that time is exactly when you have that blood drawn. So you might be experiencing a time where your hormones are all in line and you won't catch that on that test. So it's not always beneficial to do that first. I always suggest start with lifestyle and see, you know, kind of what you need there. But number one, work very closely with your medical professional. If you can't talk to your doctor about this, get a new doctor. You need to be able to confidently and easily speak with your doctor about hormones. And if they brush you off or tell you that you need to lose 10 pounds or whatever, you know, eat more and lose less, or eat less and move more. Or if they tell you as a dietitian to go see a dietitian, you know. So you should really be able to work closely with your medical professional. Okay. So that being said, naturopaths tend to look a little deeper than like a regular physician, like a medical doctor, just something to consider. Awareness. So this is the keystone to mindfulness, right? Knowing your body and your habits. So in order to do this, these are my top 3 tips. Know what your habits are, know how they affect you. So if you know that getting 5 hours of sleep because you stayed up till 2 a.m. because for whatever reason you were trying to get one more report done for work, If you know that that's going to make you not do well tomorrow, you're going to be reaching into the jar of chocolate and making poor choices, then that's something to work on, right? Know your habits, know how they affect you. Trying to zero in on them is very simple in theory, but very hard in reality. So these are the things that we work on when we work together. Tracking. Track your symptoms and your cycles and anything that could affect, right? So you had a hot flash on Thursday, or you had some nausea on Tuesday, or whatever it might be. Keeping a food journal is an excellent way right now to track your symptoms, because most of the things you experience are going to be related to your hormones. There are some great trackers out there. Most of them are for iPhone though. I don't know. I tried to look up some good Android ones, and there aren't as many good Android ones as there are iPhone. And I don't have an iPhone, so I can't play with them. But there are great trackers out there for tracking your cycles. For like, there are pregnancy ones, and then there are perimenopause, menopause ones. So make sure you get the right one. And using something like that is invaluable. I use pen and paper, but I'm crazy that way. So that's something to think about. And then try not to overwhelm yourself. Number 3 is one thing at a time. Just work on one thing. That's all you have to do. Work on one thing until you feel confident, until you feel comfortable, and then work on the next. You're in this phase of life for the next 15 to 20 years. So you might as well take your time learning what's going on, and things are going to come and go. So just one thing at a time. So if you want to focus on, you're hungry every day at 3 o'clock and you want to get rid of belly fat. So you're trying to be careful about what you're eating. Focus on protein, fat, and fiber. There you go. All right. All right. And then how does yoga play into all of this? So yoga is the learning lab for all of this. So in our yoga class, we learn awareness. If you don't understand how you learn awareness in a yoga class, come to a vinyasa class of mine, and we'll talk about how holding a plank is like the best place for building awareness in your body and how you feel in your body. Because I have lots to say when you guys are holding a plank. Practice being uncomfortable. We learn this in yoga again. Holding uncomfortable positions, tuning into your body, really learning to hear what your body is saying, taking breath patterns that aren't natural to you. These are all getting you used to being uncomfortable. The self-esteem and self-worth that you build through your yoga practice are just amazing. And it's like one day you just wake up and you're like, where did that come from? And that's part of the yoga, right? Turning in, letting go, learning all of those little lessons that go along with it. You learn how to push your limits, because you don't know your limits until Tammy says, okay, warrior 3. Now, let's go into a chair. Now let's go into a crescent. Now warrior 3. And let's do that 17 times in a row. You will learn your limits. Encouraging action, right? So yoga is very good at this. So what I mean by encouraging action is that you will be motivated to do better things for yourself. And I'm sure there is a science behind all of that. But for whatever reason, you get a good yoga class in the morning, and all of a sudden your day just opens up and you feel like making great choices throughout the day and getting to bed on time and eating foods that are going to carry this feeling on. And yoga really does help to cultivate that mindset, which is why it's such an integral part of all of my programs. Absolutely. Okay. So questions, that is like everything you need to know while we look at literally the cutest thing you will see all day, and my husband's construction work in the background. So what kinds of questions do you guys have about anything that I talked about today? And while I'm giving you guys a chance to put those in there, if anybody has any questions, and then you guys can look at my little Maximus. The other thing is that, just so you know, I am not taking on new clients right now through the season, because I have, like I said, I have some big stuff coming in January. But how do you eliminate night sweats? Yes, that is a huge one. Okay, so I did not talk about supplements today because that's a big talk. Fiber will actually help with that, believe it or not. So if you're if you're doing really well with your fiber, that helps with some of that detoxing of the estrogen dominance, which can causes that. Another part of that is environmental, right? And I'm sure you've gone through all of those. So for whatever reason, magnesium tends to have a really big role in the night sweats and the just that metabolic. So there are some, I'm trying to think of the brand name of the one I'm thinking of. There are some magnesium melatonin supplements that you can get for night, and that's what you would want. You would want magnesium in your supplement. Of course, you could do like the plaque concoction, things like that, but magnesium seems to be that. And I'm thinking that you're probably already trying that. Sometimes changing when you take it might help with that too. Yeah, I know that's a tough one, but once you get your fiber pretty standard, your healthy fat, yeah, I know you did. Yeah, so probably you might want to try taking it closer to the evening, or taking a second dose in the evening, and see if that makes a difference. Yeah, because you can't OD on magnesium. If anything, I mean, you'll know too, because you'll have loose stools if you take too much. So you might do like half and half, morning and night. That might make a difference. Yeah, so fiber, getting enough of that fiber consistently, getting the activity, and then having a really good nighttime routine can sometimes help with that too. So like a good stretch, a good meditation sometimes can help with that, because again, night sweats they're an imbalance of, way back in the pineal gland, they're an imbalance of hormones. And sometimes if you have a good routine, that can help with that. I know, that's no fun. Cooling blankets, open the window, that kind of stuff.